What's going on, guys? Crypto Renegade here again with another video for you. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the top 3 books that I read when I got into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. This is such a huge topic because it helped develop my fundamental understanding of how this technology works, why it's different, why it changed the world the way that it did, and many, many more things. So stay tuned, you're not gonna wanna miss this. All right, guys, welcome back. So again, in today's video, we're gonna talk about the top 3 books that I recommend that you read, or that I personally read when I first got into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
It's called reading. Top to bottom, left to right. Group words together as a sentence.
So just a quick little backstory. When I first got into crypto, into Bitcoin, I first heard about it in 2012. The idea and concept was explained to me and I didn't give it a second thought for another 2 years. Again, this was when Mt. Gox was happening and I wasn't too familiar with the whole situation. And basically what ended up happening is I, again, sort of just heard it, saw headlines in the news, saw the Silk Road news, and sort of just put it to the side as not something that I should really pay attention to. It wasn't until the end of 2015 where I really started picking up on its radar and really understanding what it was, and then I started to read the Satoshi white paper. And this was a huge fundamental change for me because I was really interested in what made this different and why this was such a game-changing technology. And once I read that paper, there were bits and pieces that I didn't quite get. I reread it a second time, a third time, a fourth time, and it was on the 5th time where it just clicked. Everything that I was missing came together. It blew my mind. It just totally, whoa, just blew my mind. It clicked, the implications of what this could do for the global world economy and so on. It just made a lot of sense to me. So once I started down that rabbit hole, I wanted to find the best sources of information to understand how do I learn the best and most accurate information. As you go on the internet and you look up YouTube videos, you look up different websites, different reviews, a lot of them are biased in certain ways. And what I wanted to do was find a very unbiased, clear-cut, and factual-based resource that I could understand how this works, what the technicalities are of this technology, and then also what I needed to do to understand it and then future monetize it. So what I did is I started looking at different books and I got a few recommendations for friends. So I'm gonna give you the top 3 books in the order that I read them to help me get a foundation and really understand what this was, what the backstory was, how it progressed, and how it became the powerhouse that it is today. So the number 3 book, and I'm gonna go up to number 1, but the number 3 book that I started with is called Digital Gold by Nathaniel Popper. Giving a small recap, this book, I had it all on audiobooks, by the way. I listened to it on Audible because I drove around a lot, took a lot of road trips. This was about a 9.5-hour audiobook, so I would guess in book form it's probably 400 to 500 pages. At any rate, this book taught me the fundamental story of how it started, how Satoshi came up with it, sending the list to a bunch of secret coders, and basically the fundamental story of how this first concept got out there, when the first block was mined, who were the pivotal pioneers that helped bring awareness to this movement. You know, a lot of OGs you've probably heard of, Roger Ver, Eric Voorhees, and many, many others that are prominent in the space. This told of basically a foundational story of how this worked and how it progressed, and over time, what made it essentially get on the mainstream radar, and really the different components, people, hedge funds, Wall Street, Main Street, you know, so on and so forth. It sort of told the story from the beginning of how it kind of grew to where it was today. So that was a really good foundational understanding of how, where, when, why, and so on. So Digital Gold by Nathaniel Popper, I highly recommend it. I've actually listened to this book on audio 5 to 6 times in full. It's just a great book. Overall, I always get nostalgic about it, and that's why I go back to it. So highly recommend it. You check it out. I'm gonna have links down below for each of these books in case you want to check them out. If not, no big deal. But that's one that I highly recommend, and that really helps solidify my understanding and filling in sort of the bits and pieces that didn't quite come together. So I'll go ahead and leave that there. Number 2 is going to be The Internet of Money by Andreas Antonopoulos. He's one of the best OGs. He went on Joe Rogan's podcast back in 2014. He went back in 2016. Maybe it was 2015, but he's been on Joe Rogan's podcast multiple times. He's a very prominent figure. If you're watching this video right now, you probably know who Andreas Antonopoulos is.
What, do you live under a rock?
Very, very influential and educational leader in the crypto and Bitcoin space. I highly recommend looking him up and checking out some of his YouTube videos if you haven't already. But Andreas Antonopoulos wrote several volumes of The Internet of Money. It was the first volume that I read after digital gold that really helped give me a fundamental understanding of a lot of the technical aspects of how this works and how double spends are addressed, how game theory is addressed, and a lot of different things that made me question the legitimacy or the efficacy of how this works is going to be addressed in real world scenarios, not only with financial terms, but government terms and things like that. So something you really want to check out. He's put out 3 to 4 more volumes since then of The Internet of Money, but he's also put out Understanding Bitcoin, Understanding Ethereum, and he's one of the most well-known and influential people in the space. So I highly recommend that you check him out if you haven't, and I'm gonna go ahead and link that book down below as well. The third book, and again, I just wanna say that I've read several cryptocurrency related books, both on paper and in audio form, and I've had a lot of different comparisons, and these all make the top 3 of how it influenced me and how I believe it influenced several other people as well. But the third and final book of my recommended books is called The Age of Cryptocurrency. This book is by Paul Vigna, and audiobook, it's about 13 to 14 hours, so it was a very in-depth book. But what this book did that the other 2 didn't is it gave me a lot of in-depth and fundamental analysis on how a lot of the main cryptocurrencies in the top market cap even today, including Bitcoin, how the Bitcoin forks worked with Bitcoin turning into Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum was born, how XRP was born, and not only the story behind how they were formed, but what the implications of all these different altcoins were as a branch that Bitcoin started. So it really brought a lot of the technical aspects, the background aspects, the financial aspects, and the tokenomics behind all of these different cryptos. And it even goes over some of the cryptos that kind of had its trajectory going really high at one point, and then they're completely gone at this point. So it's a very interesting book. It really gives you the fundamental analysis and understanding of proof of work versus proof of stake, and really understanding the technical differences between all the protocols and all the different networks and coins and the benefits, pros, cons, etc. that they all offer. So I highly recommend that book, and I highly recommend you do it in that order if you're interested in really expanding your knowledge of cryptocurrency. It wasn't until I fully read or listened to all 3 of those books that I really had a good grip on what I was dealing with, what the risks were, what the benefits were, and how I could apply that to my life to become the type of person that I am now, being heavily invested, understanding what I'm risking, what I'm benefiting, and so on and so forth. So just wanted to give you the recap of the 3 most influential books that I've read related to cryptocurrency for not only kind of a background, zoom out, big picture type, but also understanding the technicals, understanding the fundamentals, and understanding the entire big picture of how cryptocurrency was formed and how it's growing, and also gives me a trajectory into the future of really what's going on and where it might be 10, 15, or even 30 years from now. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up here. Go ahead and click right at the top here. It's gonna take you to a video that I did that went over the world's first Bitcoin credit card. This is something that's coming very soon, so I want you to make sure you understand it and what the benefits are. You get free Bitcoin every time you make a credit card swipe, so go ahead and check this right here. And I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up here. Crypto Renegade out.